Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Right in today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to cut this beautiful matching kimono jacket and trouser. But for this tutorial, it's going to be on the trousers. These are the basic measurements you'll be needing. So let's dive in, guys. I've gone ahead to fold my fabric on a fold. Yes, that is on the fold, and I left some margins from the starting point, the marking you're seeing there at the side and also at the top. And the next thing we're going to be doing is I left like 2.5 inches at the side and at the top about 3 inches, but you can always make it 3 inches on both sides. That would do for what you need it for. And this is the pattern drafting approach that I'm going to be using, that drafting it directly on the fabric. The first step I did there was to measure, divide the hip circumference divided by 4. So that is what I've gotten, like 11 inches. Then I'm going to mark it that way and also mark it on the other side, make it a box shape. All of the sides has to be my what I've gotten for my calculation, which is 11 inches. Can you see that? 11 here, 11 on that side, and 11 on this part. So we are having a box shape, and all of the sizes are the same, like equal 11 inches. Whatever you have for your, after you've divided it by 4, your hip by 4 is what you're going to be marking. And so the next thing is to determine, that is for the crotch line. The next thing I'm trying to do here is to get the hip line. To get your hip line, you want to determine that on yourself. But for me, for this particular one, the hip line is just 2 inches above the crotch line. Yes. Yours, I'm not saying it's going to be 2 inches for everybody, but you want to mark that, measure that on your body. The next thing to do now is to get a crotch extension. That is what you see me do. And that is to divide your hip circumference divided by 20. And on the hip line, you want to go out by 0.25 to get that shape. Yes. And the next thing after that is for us to connect it. For this particular drafting, you can use this to sew a corporate trousers where you have your band and your darts. Yes. Or better still for the one that has elastic and rope. The elastic and rope is what I'm doing here. But I'm going to be showing you the way to go about to cut it if you want to put a dart or have a band, or we want the waist to be fitted. So I've gone ahead to join it that way. Like I said, from the cross extension line, which is if divided by 20 for the calculation, you connect it to your hip line, go out by 0.5 on the hip line. The next thing you see me do that is to get the midpoint of the cross line. That is from the cross extension to the side, get the midpoint, the middle of it. And once we have the midpoint, we want to mark it all the way down to the hem of the trouser, like the length of the trousers. And for the length of the trousers, I'm going to be marking it now. And that's for the length of the trousers. You want to take your tape from the waist line and just measure it that way. Rule it, yeah, so that you'll be able to know where the hem is or where your trousers is going to end. That way you want to mark it and rule it. Yes, and that is for the length. So the next thing will be to determine the nail line. Yeah, nail. We call it nail line. Yeah. To get a nail line right, before then, we're still going to be putting the what we get for the midpoint between the starting point on the side and the crush to the crush extension. I'm going to be ruling that, and that's for the midpoint, and that's what we call the grease line. Yeah, we call it the grease line, popularly known as the grease line. And then the next thing we're going to be doing is to get our nail line. Now, grease is what we've just done. That's the line where we get a midpoint between the side, from the side to the cross extension. And now it's to the nail line, your nail. So to get that, you want to place your tape from the cross line to the end of the trousers and get the midpoint, after which you want to go up by 1.5 or 2 inches. Yeah, I think I went up by 1.5 here. Then you rule it after going up by 1.5. So whatever you have, to be able to make sure that you get the same equal line, you want to measure it from the cross line to where you have marked, and then just place it that way so that the line can be equal. Yeah, so that you can have a straight line on that part. And that is what we've gotten our new line, KNEE line. Yeah. So after getting that, I've labeled it the new line. So for this particular trouser, like I said, it's not a fitted one and it's not a pasted one. She just wanted to be free, a little bit baggy. And that is, I did measure that on her, which is to just place the tape around the nail and measure how wide she want it. I think, and she wanted it to be like 16, was it 16 inches thereabouts? Yeah, it was 16, I think. Yes. But what you need to do at the nail line is to just divide the nail circumference, right? Because you're going to be cutting two two of this for the front and two for the back. So you want to divide what you measure for the new line into two. Can you see that? You just want to divide that. Sorry, did I say into four rather? Yes, because you're going to be cutting two parts. So you divide it into four. If what you have for your new circumference is 20, that means on this side you're going to be marking 5 inches, because by the time you cut it, you're going to be cutting two of it. Two pieces for the back, two pieces for the front. So you are dividing it by 4 inches, whatever you have on your new line for the round the nail, and that is what I've imputed. At first, I wanted the M to be smaller in form of a penciled one, but then I thought to make use of the same thing that I have on the nail for the nail circumference or the round the nail, using the same measurements at the ankle now. Yeah. And then, like I said, whatever you have on that, you want to divide it into four, because you'll be cutting two pieces each. Yeah, so you're going to be dividing that into four. So the same thing I had on the nail is what I eventually use for the M of the M or at the ankle or the floor length. Can you see that? Just divide it into four. You divide it into four because you're going to be cutting two pieces, like I said. So if your round nail is 20, each side is going to be 5, 5, right? Because you're cutting two pieces. 5, 5 equals 10, and the other one, 5, 5 equals 10 as well. That means it's going to be 20 inches, and you're still going to be adding your sewing allowance. Don't forget. And that is the drafting, guys. That is the way the front went. And I'm going to be explaining something. If you want it to be with a dart, or at the same time with fitted band, you want to measure 1/4 of your waist measurement on the waistline and add 1 inch for the sewing allowances. Then you connect it to your hip line. Can you see that? That is if you want it to be fitted and not elastic or a rope one. Yeah, you do it that way. And as well as you marking your that leg as well. Remember, for the that leg, you want to get the midpoint on the waistline. When you from that part, I'm going to be placing the tape now. That part to this part, you just want to get a midpoint. I want to get a midpoint for the front one. You mark the midpoint as the dart, right? And then take 0.5 on both sides, and make sure the length of the dart is 4.5 inches for the front. And then that is it, guys. So, but because I'm not going to be needing that, I'm good. Just that is what I'm trying to explain. For the dart, you can always do it that way. Get a midpoint and then open your dart by 0.5. And for proper shaping, you can go down at the center front by 0.5, just to eliminate any folding on that part. But then I'm not going to be needing it. That's why I'm rolling it out. What I have on the hip line is the same as what I'm going to be using on the waistline, because this is going to be an elastic with a rope band. Now what I'm trying to do here is to take out 1.5 away from the length of the trouser on the waistline. Now that will be for the band, By the time I'll be cutting the band, I'm going to be replacing it by, because I'm cutting 1.5 out, I'll be replacing it by 2.5 for the sewing allowances now. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Can you see that? I'll cut that part out later on. Then before you cut it out, because this is on the fabric, you want to go on and add your sewing allowances. This method I'm using, this is the first time I'll be using it, drafting directly on the fabric, and the result came out looking so beautiful and perfect. Yes, that is to tell you that you can always draft on your fabric, but then the only thing is, do not make mistake of not adding your sewing allowances, because if you do cut it out without adding it, that would be a big shortage, and that means, except if it is your fabric, you're going to be running into a serious problem, having to buy fabric for your client again. So I've gone ahead to add my sewing allowances, and then I'll be cutting out the band part away, then replacing it by adding 0.5 on that waistline that you see me cut out. I'm supposed to cut it out on the other line, but I've gone ahead to add 0.5 for the sewing allowance, right? And on that part of the shaping there, I added 0.5, but for the sides, I decided to use 1 inch. You can use 0.5. I just decided to use 1 inch, though. Yes. So that is me cutting it out. Like I said, this is so simple. Just follow it. It is so simple, and the result is just perfect. The result, it came out looking so perfect. Yes. So after cutting it out, we're going to be drafting the back pattern. Yes. Remember, this is on a fold, meaning we are having two pieces each. Two pieces for the front and two pieces for the back. Can you just see that the pattern already looking so beautiful? I just love it. Yes, so that is it, guys. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, guys, do well to subscribe, like, comment, to encourage me to keep making more videos. All right, so we've done cutting it out after adding my sewing allowances all the way around. And now I'm going to be folding, I've labeled it front, yes. So I'm going to be folding another fabric now. I'm going to have to fold that one too on the fold, because it's going to be doubled. And the next thing we're going to be doing now, you need to pay attention to this side, yeah, to this particular part, is on the crotch line. Where you see me place the tape on the crotch line, initially we have our box, which is where we divided the hip by 4 to get the box. So on that part where my finger is, you want to come in by 1 inch, right? That's on the crotch line. You come in by 1 inch, and then I'm going to be marking it on the other side to show where it's going to start from. This is really serious because I'm drafting on the fabric. Yes. So if they're to be on a paper, I would have just used my, is it, what do we call it now? To screw to just get the lines, like, but then this is doable as well. So extend your crotch line that way, because you're going to be needing it to guide you, as well as the hip line, yeah, and as well as the waistline. You want to extend it out to the side and to the midpoint as well, that way. So after marking one, going in by 1 inch, that's for the back, and then on the waistline I went in by, as well, by, I think I used 2 inches there, yeah. After doing that, you want to connect it from 1 inch that you went into 2 inches on the waistline, and then extend it up. Remember, the back has to be extended up on the center. I did make use of 2 inches, 2 inches or 2.5, yeah. So now we want to transfer what we had on the initial waistline on the front. We're going to be using it on the back. That way, measure what you have on the waistline. I think I had around 11, and I've added my sewing allowances, making 12. I'll mark it and take the same 12 on, right from the part where I went up by 2.5, right there, and measure it that way. Can you see? Okay, so same thing on the hip line. You want to go ahead and do the same, right? On the hip line, what you have on the front measurements, you want to bring it back to the hip line, starting from the new line that we draw. So that way, you want to mark from there, right? What you have there, you want to bring it to the new line that we've just drawn from the back, and then yeah, mark it that way. And then same thing on the that's on the cross line, right? What you have there initially, we're bringing it back to the back measurement as well, just that way. You know, we've already added our sewing allowance to that part, so we'll go ahead and connect it that way, right? And the next thing will be to, after doing that, I'm just trying to confirm that again. Always go to cross check what I had there with the sewing allowance. I'll bring it back, so I don't need to add sewing allowance to the back, and that is what I have gotten there. Can you see that? So that is what I've gotten, included the sewing allowance has been added, that has been added on the front pattern. So you want to cross check very well, and that is perfect for every other part of the trousers. On the hip line and the ankle, which is the M, I'll just go ahead and add 0 0.5 sewing allowance, 0 0.5 only, not sewing allowance. Now we already have a sewing allowance added, 0 0.5 on all the sides and connect it. Yeah, 0 0.5, 0 0.5, 0 0.5, just as you see me do on the sides, and this is just perfect. It came out looking so perfect, guys. Remember, on the hip, on the new line, we divided the hip already by 4, so we already have the exact measurement. But for ease purpose, that's the essence of the 0 0.5. Yeah, and then go ahead and connect it to that part, which is the crotch line part, the side for the back, and then that there you have it. And on that part too, just go ahead. Okay, yeah, what we need to do now for the front is, for the back crotch extension, you need to divide your hip circumference divided by 10, and whatever you have, you want to place it, start the placement from where, can you see that, from where we had where we went in by 1 inch, the new line. So don't make that mistake, don't make any mistake of making it start from the initial line. No, it has to be from the 1 inch we went in from. So what I had there was around 3.9, so I rounded it up to, yeah, divided by 4, so 4 point, yeah, 4 point something, 4.1. So that's what I used on that part, and then go out on that, on the hip line on that side by 0.25, the same thing we did for the front. On the hip line, you want to go out by 0.5 and connect it that way. So I'm trying to figure out how to go about to get the perfect shape. Yeah, this part you need to take your time, because you just need to connect it and make sure it blends nicely. Make sure it blends nicely. So remember, like I said, for the crotch extension for the back, it's gonna be your hip circumference divided by 10. Yes, but for the front we did hip divided by 20, so don't forget that. Hip divided by 10 for the back crotch extension, and that is what we've gotten there. So to be able to mark it out, remember we still have our front pattern placed on the fabric that way. To be able to mark it out now, I'm just going to fold that part in and see if I can get the marking, like the shape out that way. Can you see that? Yeah, because we are using the front pattern as a guide. Can you see that? I'll just mark it now, and on this part here, I'll place my finger where on the part where I extended it out by 0.5, that part, and connect it back. And that is all we need for the back. So that is our back pattern ready. Yes, can you see that? You want to check again to be sure. And the only thing I'm going to be doing on that part is to add my sewing allowances before cutting it out. Can you see that? My sewing allowances all the way around. Just for that part only, because we've added sewing allowance already on the front pattern. The only thing I would do for that part is just to add to connect it that way, and add the sewing allowances on the shape part where we shaped. Yeah, but for the sides, the sewing allowances is already there. Yes, even for the waist line of the back, the sewing allowance has been added to the front pattern, so we don't need to add it again. So I'll just connect that part to the new line where I went out by 0.5. Can you see that? And that is it, all done. That is all done. You just need to just follow the tutorial. You'll be able to do it perfectly. I'm trying to cross check again if that is what I have. Can you see that? What I have on the hip line, I'm trying to cross check with what I have on the back line, the hip line for the back pattern rather. Can you see that? Make sure you cross check again to be sure that you have done the right thing. And that is it. Everything is set. I'll go ahead now, take out the front pattern and cut out the back pattern that way. Can you see that? I was trying to just take my time to check again to be sure. And then don't be too much in a hurry or in a rush to just cut out. You want to cross check again. Like I said, on the front pattern, the sewing allowance has already been added. The only thing I did for the back is to add 0.5 on the hip line and the M, and as well as on this part where we shape it to the crochet extension, I added the sewing allowance of 0.5. That's all. So this is me cutting it out, and the next thing I'm going to be showing you how to cut the band, and as well as the tips to join the sides together. And then so it's so simple, guys. If you have watched this video to this stage, you want to do well to like, comment, and share me out in order to encourage me to keep making more videos. Guys, subscribe to my channel if you haven't. So I've marked BB, which is the back pattern, so as to be able to differentiate, especially this kind of fabric, both sides, the right side and the right one side does looks the same. So you want to just make sure you mark it or you label it. And then for the side too, I've gone ahead to cut it out that way. Right, it's so simple, guys. So that is it, guys. I'm just taking my time. I don't want to rush this part because this is a pattern drafting approach that we use on the main. You can see what I was talking about. If it were to be a pattern drafting, we would have drafted it separate and then placed on a fabric. More reason while it's hard to like leave the video and be able to explain, not making it too fast so that we can grab it easily. That is it, guys. Can you see that? Just checking again, although I've already cut it and it's just perfect. Well, normally you just have to cross check, and there we have it, guys. So the next thing is to join it. How to join it? You want to place one of the side and one of the front together, right side facing the right side, and then join it together that way. Right side facing the right side. But I always advise, if you can, pin it down, because some fabrics are such that do like shift and all that. Just pin it down and sew on your sewing allowance. If you have added 0.5, sew it down on your sewing, join it on your sewing allowance rather. If you have added 1 inch, join it with 1 inch. So that is what you see me doing the video. joining the sides, right? And then the center as well. You want to join it that way. Like I said, one pattern of the front and the back facing right side facing each other, and then join it this way. Can you see it? The joining we are doing now is to the wrong side, and then flip it open, turn it in. So now the next thing to do is to join the shape parts together. When you're joining, you want to make sure that it does aligns right, and then the side you're joining together has to be the same. If it's towards the back, you join the back together. Yeah, that way. That's for the back now, and this is for the front. Yeah, and the other one is for this is for the front and the back. So making sure the side you're joining together are the same. If it's front and front, back and front, back with back, and front to front. I'm talking about the joining of the mid center now, not the sides. And that is it. And after sewing that, joining that together, I'll come back and show you how it's looking. Then we'll go ahead and cut our band for the band and the elastic as well. And this is it, guys. I've gone ahead to join it together. The only thing I left here is for the inserting of the pocket. If you want a pocket to be on the side, you just leave about, I left about 7 inches for that. So the next thing I want to do now is, I've already added the pocket at this stage. Next thing I want to do is to just take the measure round what I have there, and whatever I have there, I'm going to be cutting out a band for that, because I'm making use of the hip measurement or circumference. And then this is the way I went about to cut it. Can you see that I did made use of, because I cut out 1.5. So we're cutting how many inches did I even use there? Let me try and see. I think this is about 2.5. Yeah. So after cutting it, you want to make sure you have the length you want that way. And then to join it, can you see that that's the way it's going to be looking like? I actually folded it, like I bend it that way. It's on a fold. And then you want to join it together. You want to join, where we cut it open there, you want to join the band on one end, and I'll go ahead and join on 0.5, leaving a kind of a space or a hole towards the front side. I've joined it at this stage. Can you see that? And then I'll be marking 0.5 to the down. That is where I'll be joining to the band. And then on the other part too, I left 1 inch in the middle. That's going to be like an opening where I'll be passing it the rope. But then for the elastic, I'm going to be inserting the elastic inside before closing it on that part. I will show you what I mean by that. So here I've joined ahead. Can you see that? I'm trying to show you what I've done there. Towards the back, you want to close it entirely. And when sewing towards the front, you want to leave a gap with which you can insert your rope, right? And if it's elastic, you can also insert elastic. So I left like 1 inch gap open there. That's towards the front. Yeah, but for the entire of the back side, I closed it. Can you see that? Your cutting is on a fold because it's a band, but you want to sew the entire back and then leaving a space in front to pass your rope through. So that is what I have done. And then now for the elastic, because I had okay, I want to try and show you something. Normally for the elastic, I love to cut 3/4 of the total round the band. Assuming the round of band I had there is 44 inches. So I'll be cutting out just 3/4 of that for the elastic. You're not going to be cutting the same inches for the elastic. So you have to reduce the elastic so that it can stay firm and fit, and yeah, so that it can hold your waist. So that is it, guys. I've closed the elastic and then insert it inside that way. My elastic is in now after I've joined it together. Can you see that? Remember, also I did something there that was to notch, and after cutting the band out I folded it into two, then notch the midpoint. This is to guide me by the time I'll be joining to the sides. That's this, the notching you're seeing on that part. We'll see together again. I'll show you what I mean by notching. So I'm back to the starting point. Now the elastic is entirely inside. The elastic is in, can you see that? And after which I'll be passing the rope through it as well. So after doing this, I'll go ahead and stitch on the elastic. The reason being that I want it to really stay firm and stay peeled or firm inside, and then it will help it to gather more. Like, can you see what I'm doing? I'm sewing on the elastic just at the center. Just stitch it that way. So that is what I've done. Before joining it to the main body, which is the trouser, you want to go ahead and overlock it. Yeah, overlock the band. Overlock the band. There's a video on how to create the rope, which I'm going to be attaching here. You will see it at the top corner of the video. So here we want to go ahead and attach it from the mid center to the mid center of the band where we had the opening. Then go ahead and sew it all the way around. Just join it. It's so simple. And that is it, guys. I'm going to show you the end result. After doing that, you want to go ahead and overlock all the sides, everywhere you need to overlock. And at the hem of the trouser, I decided to bend it in by 1 inch using the sewing allowance I added. And so that is it, guys. That's the end result. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. If you haven't watched the kimono part of it, that's the top, go watch it on my channel. Thank you. Bye.